On today's episode, we have Dueling top 10 wide receiver rankings for the 2025 NFL Draft. Where are the similarities? What are the differences? We're going to tell you all about that coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout for being our everydayers. You know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Keith, talk to him.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ, and the other side to this dynamic duel that we like to call the what? Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. This is not just any show today, man. This is the Playmaker edition. DP, you came with your rankings. I came with my rankings. We'll let the people decide who rankings are better, right? And we're going to start at the very bottom. We're going to work our way 10 through 1. So, yes, you're going to want to stay tuned for this entire show. DP, let's get this thing started, man. Starting with 10 through 8. Who your wide receiver rankings? Let's talk about it.
This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Keith, 10 through 8. Keith, I'm going to start with my 10, 9, and 8. At number 10, I have TCU wide receiver Savion Williams. At number 9, I have Oregon's slot receiver, dynamic receiver Tez Johnson. At number 8, I have Utah State's Jalen Royals, Keith. And I know we got your rankings here. At number 10, you have Kobe Hudson. New name from UCF from Central Florida. At number 9, you also have Tez Johnson. At number 8, you have Xavier Restrepo. Keith, talk to us about Kobe Hudson. Why is he your 10th ranked wide receiver? How did he make the list for you?
Yeah, DP is these wide receivers that understand how to tempo routes, right? And I know y'all hear me say this a lot, and it's just from my experience. Like I said, watching Justin Jefferson, watching Jamar Chase, it's not about running as fast as you can everywhere you go, right? It's about sending mixed signals. He's one of those savvy, nuanced route runners. And if you go back to last year's draft, DP, we had the conversation on here. You know, one of the wide receivers I liked a lot was Washington wide receiver Jalen McMillan, right? And it's because of that, not about his 40 times. It's about him being quick at the top of the route, gaining separation. I think that's what Kobe Hudson can do. His teammate last year, Javon Baker, came out, had a solid Senior Bowl performance, right? When he was at the Senior Bowl, Kobe might have a little bit more to him, right? As far as like down the field explosiveness, but still that same savviness as a route runner. So UCF's wide receiver, Kobe Hudson, I think he's a name to look for because I think he'll be a name that continue to rise.
No, I like that. And I've watched a little bit of him. I haven't done the full deep dive, and it was more so during the season. But I remember watching him, and everything you said is spot on. Like, this is a guy that's well tempoed. He's got that veteran, very detailed, nuanced approach to attacking defensive backs. He understands how to attack and work leverage and get to his spots and his landmarks. He's definitely a good player, and I wonder how differently he would be viewed if he played for a better passing offense than at UCF, where they were better, more so running the ball with R.J. Harvey and the dual threat running quarterbacks that they had at the time. Keith, we both have. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to steal it from you. Because I have questions for you. And talk about Savion Williams, but I want to start with Jalen Royals. Because I don't. He's spoiler for me, right? Is that he's not in my top 10 on this edition of it, right? But I want you to just talk about Jalen Royals and let the people know because they might not be familiar with him from Utah State.
Yeah, no, 6 foot. Even 205-pound wide receiver from Utah State, dynamic playmaker with the football in his hands. He's really dangerous after the catch. You're talking about working the quick game, the spot concepts, the kind of some of the West Coast stuff, getting to your landmarks, especially once you forcing defenses in the zones. He's very good settling into the soft spots. He's got the long speed to stress cornerbacks vertically. He's also a detailed mover and route runner. You're talking about guys getting up in press coverage, being able to sell that diamond cut release and diamond cut slant, pressing vertical, getting guys to flip their hips and get ready to turn and run before he crosses face and gets to his spots. Short area quickness and suddenness as a route runner. This is a guy that makes plays at the catch point, pretty solid for a guy his size, since he's not 6'2". I wonder if he's more 5'11", 205 pounds, but nonetheless, still, just at the end of the day, tough kid. And then after the catch, he plays not just with speed and quickness and acceleration. He is strong in the upper body. Like, he's well built, well proportionate up top, where if you try to arm tackle as a DB, things like that, he can power through it. He can fight through it. And this is a guy, I think, when he got hurt, like I think maybe 6-7 games into the season. Of course, Jim Nagy's not inviting nobody to the Senior Bowl. If you can't play, you're not coming. You know what I mean? You're not going to be on the roster. Now to him being healthy, I think there's opportunity for him one-on-one. He could be one of those guys, one of the tougher covers for those cornerbacks one-on-one. That's why he made my list. But you asked about Savion, Keith. Now we talked about Savion, I think last week, about when we did our preliminary Senior Bowl wide receiver thing. Savion is a freak of nature. You know what I mean? 6'4", 225. Like, and shout out to our guy Ray Garvin, Ray GQ over at Destination Devi and Dynasty. He was doing a show, and he was like, man, I don't know if I can buy another TCU wide receiver because he's been burned too many times. Jalen Rager quit.
And I'm with that. I'm just not doing that, because I look at it like this, right? Is that if I said I was out on every LSU quarterback, right, then I would have been out on Joe Burrow, right? If I say I was out on, I can't do that, because then you get into the blanket situations to where that's why you end up missing on prospects. You still have to do the homework, right? And I'm gonna let you finish on that one.
No, I'm with you, and it's tough, right? I think with Savion, some of it is because, like we talked about, TCU muddied that profile for him, playing him as a wide back. They treat him like Deebo Samuel too much for me. It was like, I want him to get better with his hands, I think, and he's got some developmental arc with his route running. He's a physical route runner. He's an explosive, just dynamic weapon. Of course, the leaping ability, 6'4", even though he's not a natural hands catcher, he still uses his frame, his full arm length and wingspan to extend at the catch point. I just think this dude just has some development to do. And I just worry with the league. Like, the league is just so finicky with development to where it's like, can I trust y'all to take care of this talent, to nurture it and get it where it's supposed to be? Because, like, talking to scouts, like, we know scouts will be like, hey, I take it to my GM, like, and my coach is like, this guy got everything. You just got to coach up some stuff. Like, can you get it done? Like, I'm handing them to you. That's one of those guys. Savion Williams is one of those guys. If a team gets him and does right by him, like, work the jugs machine, work on natural hand catching techniques, and get him that muscle memory down to where he's like just catching the ball more consistently. We just watched QJ drop passes against the Texans. That's just like, QJ, it's hard for me to defend you, brother. Like, you making this difficult. You've been making this difficult. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the main thing, is you don't want to buy into all the tools and traits, and then he gets to the league, so that's the same thing. So that's why he's at 10 for me. But he's a freak of nature, and I think he could be an absolute weapon. I just want him to go to the right team. I want him to go to a team with the right coaching staff. I'm going to tell you, I would love to see him in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. I'm just saying, I would love to see him with Kevin O'Connell, Jordan Addison, and Justin Jefferson. Because if you think about pulling him as your wide receiver 3, it's not much else. You people won't have the expectations if he's a first round pick. They're like, oh, you better be better than QJ because QJ is not doing well. You know how the narrative in the media works.
Oh yeah, 100% with DP. Let's do this, man. Let's keep unveiling these lists. Let's go wide receivers 7 through 5 coming up next.
From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need for live bets, same game parlays, and so much more. Just visit the website and you can check out the latest betting lines surrounding your favorite teams and or leagues. Guys, to get in on the action, it's simple. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 back in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action and join today to get started with $200 back in bonus bets. One more time, that's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Wide receiver 7 through 5. Keith, at number 7, I have Stanford wide receiver Elic Iomanner at number 6. This might tick some people off. I have Luther Burton III out of Missouri at number 5. I have Emeka Egbuka. Keith, for you, you have at number 7, similar. Elic Iomanner out of Stanford. At number 6, you actually have Savion Williams out of TCU. At number 5, you have Luther Burton III. So, Keith, talk to me. Where you want to start here?
Let's do this. I'll talk about Savion and then Luther Burton. Both, he came in lower probably than projected for most people, so I know they want to hear that, right? So to the Savion conversation, you talked about, obviously the area of concerns. I want to talk about, I guess, the picture that I'm painting for him as a prospect, and it's similar to, not similar, but similar. I remember the conversation around Jahmyr Gibbs, and it was like, he's too small to be a running back, right? He's 205 pounds. And I'm like, I get it, but you're looking at it in the wrong context. Like, if you're projecting this guy just to solely be a running back, then you're missing out on the part where he can actually help your offense. And that's him catching the football, right? And you're seeing that now, and now everybody's buying into it. When I buy into Savion Williams, it's not just Savion, the wide receiver prospect. I agree with you. Like, if you're buying in to Savion Williams, the wide receiver prospect, I'm looking at this from the perspective, DP, that he's probably a late 2 to 3rd round type of football player, right? Because they're developmental things. But when I take 6'4", 230, and I marry that with the short area quickness and the start-stop ability, and I say, hey, how many ways can I get the football in this guy's hand, right? Like, what does that look like? And I think that can be a special piece of our offense. And we the people throughout the comp of Tetairoa Patterson, but I think it's different. And I think it could potentially, if they do it right, and we can't count on the NFL to do it right? But if they do it right, because you think about it, Tetairoa Patterson, first of all, he was just a vertical threat when he entered the NFL, right? And when he switched to running back, he was already 7-8 years into the NFL, right? He did that as kind of like a last-ditch effort, to kind of make some more money, right? Like, to stay in the NFL. I think if you get a young guy and you can put him at running back, you can put him at H-back, like, you just don't look at him solely and put him in a box as a wide receiver. Put him as, hey, he's one of my offensive weapons, and let me try some different things with him. I think you can get huge dividends and huge returns. I think you look at Deebo Samuel, right? And the success that Deebo has had has not been, okay, line up at wide receiver and win as an X. It's been doing all of these different things that draw coverages, that pull coverages, that dictate matchups, different things like that, that throws a defense off that he can benefit from. So that's why I look at Savion and I say, hey, this is a unique piece. But I do agree with you that handing him to the NFL and saying doing the right thing is a little risky, right? It's a little risky.
It's very risky.
I think I mocked them to the Kansas City Chiefs, DP.
Yeah.
If there's one spot where I think they can do something with him, it's the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They'll figure that thing. I trust Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid to get it done, because even you look at like a Rashee Rice didn't have high-end athletic traits. They just said, we're going to let you play big power slide and we'll throw you the football. So I look at it from that perspective. But the other
I'm with you. Well, real quick, Keith, and I think my comp for him, I put it in my report over at Bleach Report, because I didn't like the Cordell Patterson thing either. I was like, I don't want to use him like that.
It's too because it's too different.
It paints the wrong picture. It paints the wrong picture. You 100%. Know what I mean? So I didn't want to do that. I put Chase Claypool, because Chase Claypool coming out of Notre Dame was very similar in size, big, physical, athletic. I think he's, of course, more athletic and more explosive than Chase Claypool was. The main thing with Chase Claypool was just more of the mental stuff. You know what I
think too? I think that he has better change of direction. I thought Claypool was very rigid, and he was a a straight line guy, right? Like sinking
And the
hips.
body
Like,
composition led to that. Like you could see
yeah,
where he was built. He was kind
yep.
of built like one of the muscular tight ends in the sense, playing big slot. You know what I mean? And he had some success. It just was, could he keep his head on straight to keep that going? And we saw it didn't pan out that way. But Keith, Luther Burden the third for me, and I still like Luther Burden. I still like Luther Burden. My thing with Luther, coming off of the season he had last year, right? In 2023, 86 catches, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns for Missouri. This year, you know, his receptions, his targets, everything decreased. He went from 120 targets to 80 targets, 86 catches to 61 catches. He had 676 yards passing. Even his yards per attempt, per reception went down from 14 to 11. He had 6 receiving touchdowns. I think with him, the question I have is, do you need to be with a good QB? Right? Like we watched the situation in Missouri. Brady Cook was okay when he did play. Then he got hurt and he was out of the lineup, things like that. And don't get me wrong, like quarterback plays, we've seen it can derail receiver play. Like we always talk about it. They're the most dependent, position on the field because they require someone else giving them the football 10, 20 yards down the field. I think for him, it's more so, is he a potential true number one? Can I funnel the passing game at the NFL level to him and through him? And are you QB proof? You know what I mean? Where I look at some guys, like we've seen watching Marvin Harrison, Ohio State, the way Kyle McCord had played that year. We watched him with CJ Stroud cook. Then we still watch him cook, even though Kyle McCord at the time didn't play the Kyle McCord football we saw in 2024 with Syracuse. If he played like that, they beat Michigan. They go to the CFP, like all that type of stuff, and whatnot. But that's not what we got from him. But he still was QB proof, right? Like we've seen guys come through the ranks, and it's like no matter how the quarterback situation looked, they still were able to get it done to a certain extent. And I think for him, that's going to be the main question. And of course, there's going to be some temperamental stuff, right? Think about was it South Carolina? Which game was it that I can't remember which game it was this year? It might have been Texas A&M. But he had I think he had like a big long touchdown catch and run. It was called back for, I think, either a legal man downfield. Mm-hmm. He's on the sideline losing his mind and different things like that. And I'm like, yeah, some fans are going to get turned off by it. You know how that goes. Some media members are going to get turned off by it. There's going to be some head coaches that get turned off by it because they're worried about that diva aspect coming into the locker room and play. I don't think he's a diva. I just think he's passionate.
Yeah, no, 100%. You say quarterback proof. I would even go as far as just recession proof, right? Like recession proof with the offense, because it's not just the quarterback, bad O-line, bad play calling, bad situations, right? Can you overcome those? And I think that what you take from Missouri is that it's not that Luther Burden's athletic profile changed, right? But I think now you've seen a complete picture of what his ceiling could be in 2023 and then what could happen in 2024 dictated on his situation. And do we necessarily want to draft those guys? And I want to tie this back in to another conversation. Jackson Smith-Njigba, right? Ultra talented player. And that was kind of my comp for him. I think Jackson is a little bit more – I think he has potentially better hands, right? And IQ's a little bit better, but you're also seeing some of the speed deficiencies. When I watch Luther Burden's tape, I don't know how fast he is just from a press man, getting on top of a defensive back, stacking them, and then separating, right? I don't know if he has 4.3, lower 4.4 speed. I have no idea. We'll see when it comes to the combine.
Do you think he has good – do in that situation, do you think he's more of a short area quickness winner?
Yeah, yeah, but and so I just finished up his final report, right? So I thought about that too, and I liked that part of it. But then I had to ask myself, of the short area quickness guys, that's why they were drafted that high. So I'm thinking of the Zay Flowers, right? If I compare him to Zay Flowers, I think Zay is more explosive than him, right? 100%. I think Zay is more quick twitch. So the thing is this, that even when I get you in one-on-one situations, or if I dial up a bubble screen, like, can I count on for sure that you're going to make that defender miss in one-on-one situations? I don't necessarily feel that every single time from Luther, right? Because I think there were opportunities they gave him in the short areas of the field, and sometimes he made people miss, sometimes he didn't. All I could expect is that the defensive back player elevate in the NFL, and the ability, the athletes and everything else. So just a difficult conversation. But I came in with the second round grade on Luther at this point, and obviously the different data points and checkpoints as we go through this draft process.
I've dropped his grade to like top of the second as well, and I think I love the Jackson Smith and Jigba comp, not just from a player to player, but like going from being like, I think we saw that floor, like when you're not fed 120 targets, your production dropped. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like you weren't still getting like 80 targets is still a good number. And that's probably in the NFL, depending on what role you are playing. If you're wide receiver 2, wide receiver 2A to 2B, you're probably going to see 70 to 80 targets
and
unless you get some high volume passing offense.
Yeah, and the thing is this, that the essence, and that's what I had to think about too, the essence of play design, right? Is that, like, you think about the AJ Brown and Devontae Smith role, right? Devontae is placed in a role now where he's wide receiver 2. So all the plays may not be designed for him. At Missouri, all the plays are designed for Luther Burden, right? So you are the key. You are the guy that everybody is running the for the love of the game routes for, right? They're clearing stuff out to get you the football. What happens when you're not the guy that's getting that benefit and you just have to be a part of the progression? Can you consistently win against every coverage and every situation, right? To where, the quarterback is like, oh, man, it wasn't for you, but you're going to win this route, right? Like, can you win in disadvantageous situations? So I think that's just the thing with Luther. Obviously, still think he's a good football player, but I think that was one of the probably bigger adjustments I had to make as far as grades coming from, beginning of the season to at this point. But DP, let's wrap this thing up with the very top, man. We are going wide receivers 4 through 1 coming up next.
Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with RocketMoney.com. Go to RocketMoney.com/lockedon today. That's RocketMoney.com/lockedon. RocketMoney.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Wide receivers 4 through 1. We've gone from 10 all the way to 5. Let's close this thing out. Keith, I'm going to start with your list. At number 4, you have Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. You spoiled it yesterday on yesterday's pod. Number 3, Matthew Golden out of Texas. At number 2, you have Travis Hunter out of Colorado. At number 1, you have Tetairoa McMillan out of Arizona. For me, Keith, at number 4, I have Matthew Golden at number 4, right ahead of Emeka Egbuka. At number 3, I have Trey Harris from Ole Miss. At number 2, I have Travis Hunter from Colorado. And at number 1, we stay pat with T-Mac, Tetairoa McMillan at number 1 out of Arizona. Keith, I want to start with Trey Harris, the big body receiver from Ole Miss. Keith, I really like this dude. I think we came into the season. We was like, we'll see how it plays out.
I was low on him for sure.
Yeah, we both kind of were. I was like, day 2 for sure. And we'll see how everything plays out. 6'3", 210-pound guy. He only played, I believe it was maybe like 8-9 games. He got hurt.
I think 9.
Yeah, yep. He didn't play the full season, but he still had over 1,000 yards. He averaged 17 yards per catch, 7 receiving touchdowns. He's targeted 76 times. He caught 60 of those 76. And this is a guy that played predominantly out wide, 6'3", 210. And when I just watched him, I'm going to tell you right now, my comp for him was Michael Thomas. In terms of when you look at what they both were, neither one were this explosive, dynamic athlete that, hey, they're going to beat you immediately off the line. It's a foot race. They're winning. They're not Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, none of those type of guys. But that prototypical big body pass catcher on the outside plays the X. He can work down into the slot. He can play the Z. His body control is outstanding. A guy that like his catch radius and his ability to attack at the catch point. I think he had he turned some of those bad throws from Jackson Darts into good throws from Jackson Dart, simply because of what he's able to do at the catch point. He had an outstanding, crazy catch for a touchdown against LSU in that night game, and everything early in that game before I think he ended up going out middle of that game and didn't return. I liked his route running, his salesmanship for a big body receiver. He sunk his hips well. He played with tempo, got it very similar to Michael Thomas. You think about Puka Nacua, all those strong physical receivers. You don't speed those guys up. They play at their pace. And from a basketball standpoint, from my b-ball fans, you think about Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham, those big body guards that just you're not speeding them up.
You had to throw in that Detroit Pistons.
Cade, 27, 7 and 10. Yeah, I got to throw my boy Cade up in there, man. But not like that's what I get from him. Of course, he's not going to have the outstanding long speed and explosiveness and acceleration. But what he's able to do in winning one-on-one, this guy can win on the outside release, win the inside release. He's got a good release package for the most part. I think for him, getting out of that Ole Miss offense, I think he can run more routes than Lane Kiffin let him run. And I think for teams, and another name, I think if he's not Michael Thomas, I said Michael Thomas is the ceiling. I think you get a Cortland Sutton type of receiver, that guy that can still be your number one. And we've seen that he led that passing attack for Denver that helped propel him to the playoffs. So that's why he's my number 3 guy right now, ahead of even Matthew Golden is, of course, more explosive, dynamic, things of that nature. I look at that big body frame, what he can do after the catch, what he can do before the catch, and what he can do at the catch point. He gives me all 3 phases, and I really appreciate it.
DP, I think this is the guy we need to talk about, right? Because I had a hard time overlooking the deficiencies, right? The athletic deficiencies. And I guess my question would be, because I have to jump back into it, right, to finish up his final report. So I didn't even go through that process yet. But I wanted to get your take and your perspective on it, of how you're, I guess, negotiating with his deficiencies, right? Because we know he's not a burner, right? Like he's not a ultra quick separator, things like that. I guess, why are you able to look those deficiencies, and then like what are you buying into, I guess, to get to that? Because so the Michael Thomas one, I still believe Michael was probably a little bit more dynamic, but the Cortland Sutton one was one that piqued my interest, because I think I would almost agree with that one. And like I said, I still have to go all the way into the tape, but Cortland is no dynamic guy either, right? But he finds a way to get open. So just wanted to see, just from those 2 questions that I asked.
Yeah, I think for me, it was just kind of like, all right, how do you counter the deficiencies? Like when you're going up against those guys that can run with you, I just appreciated his ability to use his frame, his body to be strong when guys want to get up on him. I think he does need to, he has a solid release package, and he has the short area quickness with it. He needs to expand it. You know what I mean? I think a lot of that's because of that Lane Kiffin offense and everything. You don't really need it in that offense a lot of times. They can force DBs to play off because of how they spread the defense out and everything. But I think when he is really intentional and decisive with his release package, knows how he wants to work you in the contact window, he can get by you, and he can get early into his route and start and getting upfield and stacking. I think he's more of a strider than a pure, than that speed guy. So like he has a good stride. When he opens it up, he can, similar to, I think that's where the Cortland Sutton thing comes in at, because even with Michael Thomas majority of the time won on those inside, they call him slant boy for a reason. And it was always funny, but he was one of the best receivers in the league when he was healthy. You know what I mean? And no matter what you say, you couldn't stop it. You knew a slant was coming. You knew an in-breaker was coming. You couldn't stop it. It just was what it was. You had to get beat on it. And I think that he can win and live in that same realm while giving you that kind of that long stride verticality that we see from a Cortland Sutton. Because like you said, Cortland's not a dynamic athlete. But it's like, then you watch the Broncos offense, and somehow he's beating defenses over the top. And it's like, how are y'all getting beat by this? It's because he is physical at the catch point. I mean, at the release point.
Yeah, that's the thing where I think I had question marks, right? Like, okay, like how can this guy get vertical, right? And in this year, just watching the games and stuff on TV, and it's like, okay, he got vertical again, right? Like he
Right,
won vertical again.
right.
And it's like, is this just an unorthodox situation, right? Is this just like not your normal situation? So I'm gonna jump back into the film with an open mind, and understanding, like maybe he just gets it. I guess the part that worried me about him in his profile was, one, obviously the Lane Kiffin offense, but two,
Yeah.
is when you get in press man situations, right? And I put you against, let's not even say the all pro, right? Like not
Yeah.
the Derek Stingleys, the Patrick Surtains, the Jalen Ramsey, not those guys, but the second tier guys, right?
Mhm.
And that's he's playing second tier right now, like just the Pro Bowl corners, like a Darius Slay or something. Like could half the NFL eliminate you in one-on-one situations?
Right. Yeah.
That's what I kind of worried about with him. But like you said, like if he's just able to get open and find ways to get open and stack sets, things like that, then it could be some difference.
The nuance and detail is gonna be big with him. You know what I mean? In terms of like just playing at your pace. Don't let those, even when you see those corners get up on you, don't panic. Don't let them speed you up to where you foot firing like a maniac at the line of scrimmage going nowhere. Like play your game. And if that's pressing up and getting up into them, and the Keith, we've seen like those big body receivers who are strong. And then some of those guys that like, because I remember, I'm not gonna lie to you, one of my like, and it wasn't something, because it's like it's some weird guy on Twitter that like follows me around like to try to remind me that he tries to say I was down on Jamar Chase. I'm like, dude, like I literally drafted Jamar Chase like top 3. I won the championship and won money that year because I drafted Jamar Chase. I was never down on Jamar Chase. I just was like, I would like to see him not invite so much contact at the line of scrimmage. I'm like, with his explosiveness, like, dude, use your hands, beat these guys quick and get vertical. Like, but he was one of those guys who want to tussle. That's just, and you can see it with the way he plays. Jamar likes contact. I think if you don't contact Jamar, it annoys him. I think he wants you to contact so he could toss you out the way and get into his route. He likes the contact. I think Trey Harris is one of those same type of guys where you got to just be wary of, okay, do I get my hands on? Do I try to be overly physical with him? Because he's going to be stronger than you 9 times out of 10. And those are the type of guys you don't want to hard physical jam. You want to maybe quick jam and retreat, or quick jam and bail, or you want to play soft shoe technique and make him try to outrun you. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. Because where you can, I think Jamar Chase was on the Pivot podcast a couple of years ago, and he talked about it. He was like, yeah, what cornerback group do you like? It's time. And he's like, yeah, the Browns. He's like, Denzel Ward. And Denzel Ward is one of the best soft shoe cover corners that I've watched in years. You know what I mean? Because he knows I'm not the most physical, imposing guy.
Him, Jair Alexander,
Yes.
right? Like those type of players. Yep.
Darrelle Revis made it famous. So, like, that was the guy that kind of made it famous of, yeah, I can be physical, but against Calvin Johnson, you saw him soft shoe. I'm a soft press you, and I'm going to just mirror and match your movements and stick in your hip pocket. I think with Trey Harris being as detailed and nuanced as possible, which I think I see there are flashes of it in his game, getting him in the pro-style offense with pro-style coaching and everything like that, I think that will increase it and elevate what he can be.
Yeah, I wish he was a guy that went to the Senior Bowl too. I feel like it would have been huge for him. And who knows, maybe he comes and decides at the very last second, right, to go. But
for those helmet scouts, he is not Jonathan Mingo, so don't do it.
You know it's coming. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at the Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Keith, Friday, we got to get ready for the national championship game on Monday. I think that's the perfect time to go ahead and preview some of these prospects who can make themselves some money and help their draft stocks with big time. Can Will Howard push himself into that second round?
Yes, he will.
QB3,
yes,
QB4.
he will. I am pounding the buy button on Will Howard, DP. You heard it here first.
Can he do that? We're going to talk about all that on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.